Have you ever felt that being alone was a sign that God was doing something special in you? That the farther you were from people, the closer you were to Him? I believe that too. And for a long time, I thought being chosen meant being misunderstood. That spiritual maturity came with solitude. But when I looked more carefully at the Bible, I realized something that changed everything. God never called anyone to live in isolation. He allowed moments of retreat, yes. But He never made abandonment a lifestyle. The difference between retreat and isolation is simple, but profound. Retreat is intentional. You choose to step away for a while with a clear purpose, to pray, to rest, to hear God's voice without noise. It's a strategic pause to recharge. And most importantly, it has a return date. Isolation, on the other hand, has no planned end. It becomes routine. It becomes defense. It becomes identity. You are not stepping away to be strengthened. You are hiding so you won't get hurt again. And when that happens, you are not being set apart by God. You are running from people. And the Bible is clear about that. It is written in Genesis 2:18. It is not good for the man to be alone. That was said before sin, before any betrayal, before any disappointment, before any wound. God looked at the human being in the perfect garden and said, "It is not good for him to be alone." The problem of isolation did not come from the fall. It goes against the very design of creation. God made us to be with others. And when that is broken, something inside us becomes sick. Think with me. David fled from Saul. He lived persecuted, treated unjustly, afraid of dying at any moment. But he never walked alone. He had Jonathan, who risked his own life to stand by him. He had men around him, even in the desert. God did not remove people from David's life. He used people to sustain him. Job lost everything: children, health, possessions. He sat in the dust, covered with sores, without understanding why he was suffering so much. But he was not alone. His wife was there, even saying in despair that he should curse God. But notice this: she did not abandon him. She stayed. She crossed the chaos with him. And in the end, when God restored Job, she was there. They had more children. The marriage remained. The friends were there, even speaking bad theology. But they sat with him in the dust for 7 days before opening their mouths. They tried to help the best way they knew how. The book of Job does not glorify his solitude. It exposes wrong words, but it does not deny the importance of presence. Because presence matters. Even imperfect presence. Even confused presence. The intention to help, even when poorly executed, still reveals something. No one was made to carry pain alone. I am not saying you need to accept toxic relationships. But imperfect presence is not the same as destructive presence. Elijah, after a massive victory on Mount Carmel, isolated himself. He fled into the desert, entered a cave, and said to God, "I alone am left." He romanticized his own isolation, but God did not validate that. He fed Elijah, confronted the distorted narrative he had created, and reinserted him into the mission. God said, "There are still 7,000 who have not bowed their knees." Isolation did not mature Elijah. It led him to emotional collapse. Even Paul, at the end of his life, wrote in 2 Timothy 4:9, "Do your best to come to me quickly." A mature apostle, experienced, full of the Holy Spirit, asking for company. He did not romanticize solitude. He missed people. And he was not ashamed to say that. So why do we think today that isolation is spirituality? Maybe because it's easier to say, "God set me apart," than to admit, "I'm afraid of getting hurt again." Maybe calling loneliness consecration hurts less than recognizing that you are running away. But the Bible does not promise that you will be understood by everyone. It promises sufficient help. It is written in Ecclesiastes 4:9-10. "Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. God uses people to lift those who fall. And if you isolate yourself, you prevent that from happening. Retreat is holy. Prolonged isolation is sickness. There is a huge difference between stepping away to hear God and stepping away to avoid being confronted. God speaks in the secret place, yes, but He sustains us in relationship. And when you turn the desert into your home, you are not being mature. You are becoming sick. So I ask you, did God really separate you from everyone, or are you using Him as a justification not to reconnect? Because the God of the Bible never sustained anyone in abandonment. He always kept someone nearby. Always. You do not need to be alone to be chosen. You need to be willing to be cared for. And sometimes the greatest act of faith is not isolating yourself. It is allowing yourself to be with someone again. And you, have you been living in isolation or in retreat? Tell me in the comments, when was the last time you truly let someone get close? If this touched you in any way, leave a like. And subscribe to the channel, because we will keep talking about these things no one says, but everyone feels.